10 years ago, a very strange thing happened in a remote corner of China. People gathered at the edge of a vast, empty desert. They did not come to build a city, they did not come to drill for oil. Instead, they came with truckloads of dead things. They brought withered stalks of corn, dried leaves, brittle straw. Then, they did something that made no sense. They dug massive trenches in the barren sand and buried all of it. They covered tons and tons of dead dried plant matter under the silent shifting dunes. It was a quiet, almost secret project, far from the world's eyes. It looked like they were burying a failure, a ghost of harvests past. The desert swallowed it all, and for years, nothing seemed to change. To understand the miracle, first understand the enemy, the desert itself. It is an ancient force, a vast expanse of sand and silence that has resisted life for millennia. The Ulanbu is not a gentle landscape. Its name, Red Bull, hints at its raw, untamable power. It is a realm of extremes. It is a place defined by absence of water. Without it, the fundamental chemistry of life cannot begin. Rainfall is scarce and unpredictable. When it falls, it vanishes into the thirsty sand almost instantly. The sun takes what little remains, its intense heat baking the surface and driving evaporation to staggering levels. Or it sinks too deep for roots to reach, percolating down through the loose grains, lost to the world above. The sand holds no moisture, it's a sieve. It lacks the organic structure to bind water molecules. The air is dry, the winds are fierce, constantly sculpting the dunes and stripping the land of fertile particles. Scorching, hot days give way to freezing, cold nights. This brutal daily cycle makes sustained growth nearly impossible. Life has very little to hold on to here. Between the shifting sands and extreme temperatures, the landscape is actively hostile. This is not soil as a farmer knows it. It is simply sand, tiny, sterile rock, a mineral foundation lacking the spark of life. Healthy soil is alive, billions of microbes, fungi, and insects. This subterranean world is a bustling engine of decomposition. They break down organic matter, releasing essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, making them available for new growth. The Ulanbu's sand had none of this. It was a geological skeleton, not a living body. The cycle of life and death was broken. A seed may land and sprout after a rare shower, a brief moment of hope, but its roots find nothing. The water disappears. The seedling shrivels and dies. Traditional tree planting often failed. Irrigation was immense and unsustainable, treating a symptom, not the cause. The core problem was the broken soil. Before plants, you need soil. Before soil, you need decay. In the Ulanbu, that cycle was gone. Conventional wisdom said the desert was absolute, a battle lost to the relentless sun and scouring winds. Faced with this impossible reality, scientists proposed a plan that was both radical and elegantly simple. Instead of fighting the desert on its surface, they would go under it. Their idea: to create an entirely new, living layer of soil, buried deep beneath the sterile sand. The strategy hinged on burying massive amounts of organic matter deep enough to be shielded from the elements. Down in the cool, stable darkness, this buried material could be transformed. The hidden layer was designed to become a subterranean sponge, a reservoir of potential, ready to capture and hold every precious drop of moisture from infrequent rains. The method was brilliantly straightforward and fundamentally community-powered. A coalition of farmers, local workers, and researchers worked side by side, digging long trenches 1 to 2 meters deep. Into these open wounds, they poured tons of agricultural waste, fibrous corn stalks, brittle wheat straw, and dried leaves, otherwise burned or discarded. This material, rich in carbon, was packed densely, a concentrated cache of stored energy waiting for a spark. Once the trenches were sealed, the desert surface looked almost untouched, but beneath the sand, a monumental gamble was underway, an act of profound faith in invisible biology. The critical question was whether decomposition could even begin. Would the buried matter simply remain mummified for decades? Or, as the scientists hypothesized, was there just enough latent moisture and microbial life dormant in the sand to kickstart decay when concentrated with so much organic fuel? Everything depended on this bet. The science is simple and mirrors nature. It all comes down to one word: decomposition. Dead plant matter, rich in carbon, was buried, creating a concentrated food source for bacteria and fungi. Dormant microbes found a feast and multiplied, breaking plant matter into simpler components. The breakdown makes humus, the magic in fertile soil. Humus acts like glue, binding loose sand. A stable, sponge-like layer forms, trapping water. Nutrients stockpile, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Microbes free nutrients roots can absorb. A slow-release fertilizer bank deep underground. Sterile sand transforms into living soil. A virtuous cycle forms. Better water and nutrients encourage more microbes, speeding decomposition, making more humus and life. The desert wasn't conquered, it was taught to heal from within. The execution was relentless. Dig, fill, cover. Day after day under a brutal sky teams worked, long deep trenches by machine and by hand, measured precisely. Logistics moved mountains of plant waste, workers raked and packed brittle straw densely. The memory of plants laid to rest. A crucial step, add a microbial starter culture, beneficial bacteria and fungi targeting cellulose and lignin like yeast to dough, accelerating breakdown, trenches sealed, from above, nothing to see. Now, the long wait, as moisture percolates and microbes work. For years, the surface stayed stark and hostile, but cores told another story. The buried layer grew darker, crumbly, nutrient-rich, water retention soared. It became the sponge scientists envisioned. After a decade, they gave a gentle push, sowing hardy natives above the hidden soil. The first green shoots emerged, a sight many believed impossible. After rain, the buried organic matter acted like a sponge, holding moisture long after the surface sand dried. Seeds germinated, their roots dove deep, finding a hidden reservoir of water and nutrients locked in the decaying straw. In a place where countless efforts had failed, they didn't wither, they held on and grew. Soon, green patches appeared, nascent communities, not just isolated plants. Their interconnected roots began to weave a net beneath the surface. Roots held the dunes steady, while their own fallen litter began the slow process of creating topsoil. The shade from these pioneers cooled the ground, helping new seeds sprout. From above, success was measurable, distinct green patterns. The lines of buried straw became lines of life. A farmer, who dug these trenches a decade earlier, stood at the new green edge, whispering, "For 50 years, I watched the sand take everything." His hope was worn thin by a lifetime of failed projects. We planted trees, they died. We built walls, sand buried them. But this was different. This was life born from the ground up. Now his fingers met living proof. A tangible sign, their patience had finally turned the tide. The data was clear. A rich layer of humus formed. Water retention rose dramatically, sequestering carbon back into the earth. But seeing insects on flowers here, a sign of a returning food web that went beyond charts. It was pure joy. Theory, community labor, and patience converged into a breathing ecosystem. This is not a forest, not yet. These are vital footholds, green islands across 6,000 hectares of once shifting dunes, made semi-stable by a slow, nature-based solution. No flashy tech, no massive irrigation, just waste, work, and ecological wisdom. This subsurface soil method is a blueprint that scales to the Sahel, Middle East, and beyond. 10 years ago, they buried death. Today, life grows in its place. The desert's new green heart is beating and offers a rhythm of hope for a thirsty world.